talked about this Mayweather-McGregor shit show that's going to happen here in less than 2 months.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, for sure. And I got into my head somehow. I'm like, what if Mayweather comes forward and McGregor sneaks in that left hand and knocks him down? This is a very unlikely scenario, but what the hell? Knocks him down. Mayweather falls face first into the canvas. And he's down for like a second or two, And when he pops back up, he looks like Frank Reynolds when Frank came in to tell the gang about his beauty pageant, and he tripped and he fell. Remember that?
I remember it vividly.
I'm like, what if Mayweather popped up off the canvas and he had that look to him? And I lost it for like 20 minutes for some reason.
Say it's highly unlikely that occurs.
It's extraordinarily unlikely, but it was really funny to me, so what the hell?
Is there any historical footage of anybody causing Mayweather to fall face first onto the canvas at any point in his life?
Absolutely not. I don't know of any footage of any fighter falling face first like that and coming up with a bloody nose and whatnot like Frank did. But I wish it would happen.
I'm sure it's happened.
That would give me a lot of pleasure.
I don't know if the getting back up part happens, but that's definitely happened.
Popping right back up like Frank did.
But,
get this. So, my mom calls me the other evening, and she says, how was your day, blah, blah, blah. I said, it was good. She goes, well, I'm about to ruin it. I was like, oh boy, here we go,
Great. Thanks.
Yeah, that's what you want to hear from your mom after a hard week of work. And so I'm like, all right, let me have it here. And she starts telling me the story about how she went to some weight loss meeting, and then she was paired up with, another woman who was there who's supposed to be like an accountability partner.
All right.
So they call each other and, check on each other's progress and keep each other in line, that sort of thing, I guess. And she starts talking to this woman and finds out that the woman lives real close around here somewhere. You know how close I live to my parents, and she's like, well, where do you, my mom's prying a little bit instead of just letting it go, and, well, where exactly do you live? And she's like, oh, I live at this intersection. My mom's like, hey, we live right there, and so does my son. Which side of the road do you live on? She's like, oh, on this side. And she's like, oh, my son lives over there. And she's like, well, where exactly, she keeps pushing into this. Well, it turns out this woman is my next door neighbor. It's the woman that lives right across the hall from me.
Really?
Yeah, who's an older woman, and I see her all the time. Like, I've never talked to her, but I always see her. She doesn't seem all that friendly, if I'm being honest, and I'm quite certain she's never going to listen to this podcast, so I think we're cool. But
people don't tend to like you in your neighborhood for a variety of reasons.
That seems to be a theme, and I don't know why, but whatever.
Despite you being the nicest guy ever, well, besides Jeff Martin.
Well, I don't know if I'm the nicest guy ever, but I think I'm perfectly friendly.
No, you're probably not anywhere close to that. No.
But, so, yeah, my mom finds out that she's my next door neighbor, and this woman tells my mom that she's only seen me once, and that she's never talked to me. And I'm like, only seen me once? I see this woman all the time. She lives right across the hall from me. And then
it's just better this way. That way she can't keep tabs on you.
And then I remember that my other neighbor told me when she moved in, he made some comment about her glass eye. So I'm thinking, maybe she hasn't seen me all the time like I've seen her. Maybe I'm always on her wrong side. Anyway, so this woman's like, she tells my mom, oh, I didn't know that was your son, blah, blah, blah. Next time I see him, I'm going to have to say hi and talk to him. My mom's like, don't do that. He's reclusive. He doesn't like people. He doesn't want to talk to you. Don't do that. So I'm like, okay, great. So she tells me this, and, she hangs up with me. I'm like, all right, whatever. And yesterday, I leave my house, I think for the first time since I talked to my mom. This woman's in the laundry room.
Huh.
And she comes out, and immediately she says, are you Craig? And I'm like, oh, come on.
Nope. I don't know who you're talking about. No.
And I froze, and I'm like, yeah.
Why'd you do that? No.
I don't know. I was confused because my mom, specifically told me that she went out of her way to tell this woman not to talk to me. And the first thing she does when she sees me is start talking to me.
Hmm.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm Craig. And she's like, oh, I met your mom. She's such a nice lady, blah, blah, blah. So I had to stop for 5 minutes and have a stop and chat with this woman who I have no interest in talking to because my mom happens to meet her and, my mother befriends everybody she's ever met is her best friend. And now I have to have some kind of, stop and chat every time I come in and out of this stupid building with this woman.
Well, I have a solution to your problem.
All right, here we go.
As I'll recommend to you and everyone else I've ever crossed paths with, you should definitely move out of the place you were born. Not that you have any animosity towards it, but to get some fresh perspectives, and you'll never have to do another stop and chat ever again because you're never going to run into anybody that you recognize.
That's true, and, my reputation for talking to neighbors is not real great, so I probably wouldn't have any problems as far as new neighbors.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't just go talk to my neighbors. Why would you do that?
I do that all the time, and I strongly advocate it.
Talking to your neighbors? Why?
Well, because that's 5 years of Montana rubbing off. I'm not a jerk like the rest of society. I want to know who my neighbors are, and if they need help, then, I can bend a little bit and help somebody out.
Well, I'm willing to help people, but does not talking to them make me a jerk automatically?
Not necessarily.
No.
Doesn't make you a friendly neighbor, though.
I'm not an unfriendly neighbor. I don't go out of my way to do unfriendly things.
Didn't you watch Mr. Rogers growing up?
Yeah, I did.
Don't you know anything?
What? I don't know the...
He doesn't say, won't you be my neighbor so we can be reclusive and never talk to each other. That's not part of the song.
I've got 2 brothers and no friends, and I'm comfortable with that ratio.
Well, there you have it.
Of course, if a neighbor knocked on my door and needed help, I would help them.
Well, they're never going to, because you've never said one word to them.
That's not true. The woman above me knocked on my door. This is many years ago now. She wouldn't do it now, I'm quite sure. But she knocked on my door and asked me to help her move her TV, because she had some big-ass TV she was trying to get up on a shelf, and I went up and helped.
See, I wouldn't help.
What?
No. That's where I draw the line.
You're just getting on my case about being an unfriendly neighbor.
I have to support the idea that I'm helping with. If I disagree with it fundamentally, well, moving their TV, no.
Well, what's so disagreeable about that?
I don't know. Was PBS on?
Nothing was on. It was it was turned off. It was just a big ass TV. They needed help moving.
So I got to take time out of my life to help move this person's TV so they can watch Transformers 3? I don't think so.
What difference is it what they're watching? Who cares? I just assume everybody but us is watching Transformers 3 right now.
I hope that's not the case.
Well, I hope it's not the case too, but I can't assume otherwise. Guilty until proven innocent.
I gotta say, I don't agree with this philosophy at all.
I approach things as if everybody's a Billy, and I hold no animosity towards them, but I just assume that's true until they show me that they're not. Because, as you know, 99 times out of 100, it turns out to be true.
I think W.H. Auden said, I can't recall. He said, a stranger's just a friend you've never met. You do not subscribe to that philosophy.
No. I do not buy into that one.
All right.
I don't, maybe I'm wrong, but hey.
I think it's highly likely.
It's definitely likely. That's true.
But you made a new best friend in your neighbor next door.
That's exactly what I didn't want to do. And that's the second weird thing. Did I ever tell you that story? If I did, I'm going to tell it again because I think it's funny.
Can I have recommended that you made friends with the neighbor that lived there previously?
Yes, you've recommended that before. The woman who lived there before that one, so 2 neighbors ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm sure I've told you this, but like I said, I'm going to recount it because it's a pretty funny story, I think, although some might take it as insensitive. But the woman that lived there before was older, and how do I put this? She was mean. She was not very friendly. I would actually try and, when I passed her in the laundry room or in the walkway there, I would say, "How you doing?" or whatever, and she would just kind of go, "Ugh." She would just kind of like bark or grunt at me. She would never really say anything. I don't believe I ever got a verbal response out of her, so I didn't push it. Okay, you want to just growl at me? That's fine.
Who's got the energy for that?
Yeah, I'm not going to try and force you to have a conversation with me, for God's sakes. But so that went on. That went on for a couple of years of her just barking at me. Like I kept saying hi or whatever. I'm not a jerk. But one day it was a holiday. I don't remember. I think it was Memorial Day maybe or something. Either way, I was at work and I was not in my office as usual because it was a holiday. I was outside working all day, doing heavy lifting and I was working physically. And on those kind of days, I tend to go and get a pizza when I'm off. And then I come home and I destroy that pizza. That's just kind of what I do. But so I went and got a pizza that day. I'd been working all day. I was tired. I come home and all my other neighbors, there's like 10 people outside. All my other neighbors are like in front of the building. And they're all kind of talking to each other. And it was very strange. I've never seen that many of my neighbors out there all at once talking to each other.
Was the building on fire?
I was thinking something was wrong, and I was like, this is weird. So I got out with my pizza, and I kind of walk up to the walkway there, and Brian, the only neighbor that I really talked to at all, was like, hey, I don't even remember her name, to be honest. She's like, so-and-so, she died. And I was like, really? And then he's like, yeah, and they all look kind of sad, and we're just kind of looking down, and I'm like, who's that? And he's like, the woman that lived across for you for the past 5 years. And I was like, oh. And then I just kind of looked around. They were looking, all sad and whatnot. And I was like, pizza? And I, kind of offered them all the pizza. And then they just all looked at me. And I was like, well, see you later. And then I walked past all of them and just went inside and destroyed the pizza.
Well, I mean,
I felt kind of bad, but I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I said hi
first
to her.
Of all,
she just barked
this
at
whole
me.
this whole thing is kind of bullshit because I'm pretty certain that none of those people had any kind of relationship or friendship of any kind with this woman whatsoever.
I don't know. I kind of disagree because all my other neighbors talk to each other. I only see one or two of them talking, at a time. Nobody ever seems to be on the same sort of schedule, but
mostly they're just gossiping about you.
That's possible, but I always see them talking to each other, so I'm sure they probably forced the issue and actually talked to her, which I was unwilling to do. So I'm willing to bet that they all at least knew her a little bit.
Well, I don't know. In my experience with neighbors, at least in this area, on the West Coast, people are not overly talkative unless they need help. Sure. We got caught with, I don't know, a little bit of a snowstorm. Everybody started freaking out because there was an inch of snow on the ground. People's cars wouldn't start. There was people that had never used an ice scraper before.
Sure.
People needed a jump, all of which, I was more than willing to do, but it's amazing how friendly people get as soon as they need something from you.
Well, yeah, no doubt.
It's like, you have never said more than 2 words to me, but now that you need my help, we're best friends.
Yeah, of course.
And I actually love the fact that nature asserts itself and forces people to interact with one another, but that was my idea from the get-go, was we would interact, but society had other plans, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, just little pleasantries. I don't think you're going to have any incredible conversations on the side of the road, but you never know.
Well, it's weird because you're a nice guy, you're a friendly guy, you can be outgoing, and even you have had run-ins with your neighbors. Look at that Billy recently yelling at you about cardboard.
Yeah, what the event King is referring to, I was throwing away some recycling some cardboard. Guy yells at me out the window. So we exchange some obscenities. He decides he wants to come outside and get physical regarding it. And luckily, we de-escalated that, but it was quite interesting that somebody was really that worked up about a box. It's like, clearly, this person really doesn't have a whole lot going for them.
He's willing to go to blows over a cardboard box.
Yeah, and what's the thing you always say? Hey, buddy, you might start it, but I'm going to finish it. No.
Yeah, if you start it, don't start it, because if you start it, I'm going to finish it.
Well, this is why I'm a big fan of... There should be, Greco-Roman wrestling rings on every corner in this country. Or makeshift boxing. We need an intermediary.
Yeah.
Where people, are a ref of some kind to keep things on an even keel. And if people want to go sort out their problems in a constructive way, where you can still be highly aggressive, but you're not going to get a gun or a knife or,
no surprises.
Yeah, no surprises. Then I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I remember my father saying they had one of those at his high school. Their principal was like a ex-Marine, and if he found out anybody had beef, they'd just put the boxing gloves on after school and work it out.
It's a great idea.
I mean, it would... I think it would be beneficial in a lot of respects. It's like dueling, but without the level of severity of anyone actually dying. I am a fan of dueling, but...
I was just going to say, you've been proposing for years to bring back old school dueling, but that has a little more dire consequences.
Well, it can, depending on what the discrepancy is.
Well, that's true.
There's different levels of duel depending on what the infraction is, so to speak.
What kind of duel would you like to see brought back? Like old school,
all of them.
Turn in old west. Both guys grab their guns at the same time and see who gets off first.
I think I'd go. Well, you'd have for somebody cuts you off or something, or besmirches your honor.
Sure.
Maybe you can just work it out with your hands.
Just a fist fight duel.
Or we can get the sword involved. I mean, fencing that's a lost art, but we could bring it back.
Sure. Fencing's awesome.
And, if somebody, say, there was some financial problem between two people, or...
like a business deal gone wrong or something?
Yeah, business deal gone wrong. I mean,
money laundering.
If you want to run him through, I guess that's up to you, but he's not going to pay you if you do that, so it's the threat of violence, not actual violence.
Well, I mean, you might get some level of satisfaction even if you don't get your money back from beating his ass.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. It's part of the whole reason. I mean, the duel is there really for the offended party, and it's up to them to say how offended they are.
I like the fencing idea because I don't know how many people on this earth are skilled fencers, but it can't be a lot, and the average person definitely isn't, so that would be interesting to watch two people who have never fenced before try and go at it with those swords.
Well, if I knew it was something I was going to be doing frequently, I might put a little bit of training into it, but...
Apparently, Bruce Dickinson is a great fencer.
Yeah, he was, I want to think... In England, he was a finalist in some kind of national ranking.
Was he really? I didn't know he was that good.
Yeah, he was up quite high from what I understand.
Singing great songs, national level fencer, flying airplanes. I mean, this guy.
Yeah, frontman of one of the greatest metal bands of all time.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I think he owns an airline now. I'm not sure.
I know they've done a contest where the winner of contest can get on a plane and Dickinson flies you to the next show and then you get to go to the show.
Would you go for that? I know you're not a fan of flying on planes. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I mean, that'd be hard to turn down. How badass would that be? To be on a plane flown by Bruce Dickinson and then the next night or whatever, go and see him rip it up on stage when he's like 50-something years old,
He wasn't the drunken degenerate that everybody expects a frontman of a metal band or any band in the 80s to be.
That's
true. He was
true.
never that much of an idiot,
No, he seems pretty level-headed.
Some of these guys just partied and ran themselves right off the rails, and, despite having written some decent music occasionally, they may not have been the best types of people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Maiden had their moments, but collectively, they always seem to have their heads on straight,
Well, sure. I mean, I think everybody would have their moments. What's the benefit of being in one of the greatest bands of all time if you're not going to abuse it occasionally? But I don't think, if you can't throw a TV out the window, then why even bother?
Yeah, I mean, if I can't once in a while ride a motorcycle down the hallway of a hotel, then I'm not interested in being a rock star.
Absolutely.
Just trash a room once in a while. That you got to have some of that in there.
Absolutely. See, but luckily, if you're the manager of a hotel, in my world, you'd have a duel available, and they could work it out.
You could duel Bruce Dickinson for trashing your hotel room.
Yeah, the duel isn't necessarily a promotion of violence, but rather a mediator between chaos and order.
It's a settling of differences.
I don't know, people do all kinds of foolish things nowadays that go without any kind of repercussions, and that's exactly what I'm opposed to, is somebody rides your ass when you're driving or cuts you off, and, they're speeding through your neighborhood where little kids are playing going 50 miles an hour, and there's zero repercussions.
Sure.
They're affecting everyone around them, and everyone around them is put in danger, inconvenienced. And, I could list 1,000 different examples of this. Your neighbor playing music at 2 o'clock in the morning in your apartment complex, and you've got to get up to go to work. Everybody knows that's a completely unreasonable thing to be doing.
Yeah.
Yet it happens every single day.
Sure.
And I know when I lived in a different area of Portland, this happened. I'm usually not one to bother much with people. I let people do their own things, but this is completely ridiculous. So we called the cops one night, and they came out. Because this happened, night after night of a guy just blasting his music with the door open. The cops show up. The guy's drunk, passed out in his recliner. The front door is wide open.
Sounds about right.
And he's got like a dog there. The cops didn't do anything.
Yeah,
they didn't turn the music down. They didn't go in his house. They did absolutely nothing. They were like, well, I don't know what to tell you. And then they left.
That's
it's
bizarre.
Like, okay, well, thanks for doing absolutely nothing. I'm glad I called you.
I'll take this in my own hands now, so don't blame me if you don't like how I do it.
Yeah, so, I mean, it would have been completely reasonable for me to say, hey, I don't like what you're doing.
Yeah.
Let's duel on either stop what you're doing or we're going to duel, and we're going to do it in a structured environment so nobody, dies.
You should have done, taken a different kind of revenge at that point, done the old Seinfeld, send pizzas and taxis to his house in the middle of the night, find out his phone number and keep calling his phone and hanging up, just psychologically drive him nuts.
See, the problem is none of these people must have grown up with fathers like ours, because I don't know. You just know not to do that because you don't want to be a Billy.
It's just, that would never have been tolerated.
No. That's the bottom line.
If I wasn't in bed on time, well, I don't have to tell you what happened.
The modern world needs to put itself in check because it is irritating.
Oh, that's true.
And if it's not going to do it, then I want to do it in my own small way, but I don't want to deal with any of the legal repercussions. From what I understand, in the old days, you'd demand satisfaction. And just the act of even the possibility of engaging in a duel would usually be enough to turn the other person right around. And,
that's true.
Okay, clearly I was wrong. You were right.
Unless you're dealing with a straight up savage who's willing to just throw down for something stupid.
But they're already willing to do that, so it's just really putting it in a more structured environment where, it's going to be fair.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's true.
Hence the guy with the willing to fight over a cardboard box. Yeah, I might be willing to engage in a low-level threat duel where, but I'm not necessarily willing to take it to a, serious threat of violence.
Maybe that's why I love fighting so much, in that, especially when there's some kind of beef between the two people that are going to be fighting, because it's like, okay, these people have a problem. Now they're going to settle this problem in a professional manner with a referee and judges, and, somebody's going to be shut up, basically. And I love the instant, the karma that comes with someone who won't shut up and who is being really annoying and who's talking like they're invincible and then goes in and gets waxed. Like, to that point, part of the Ronda Rousey thing, she was running through people, and in victory, she was being a dick. Like, she was not showing the people that fought her any respect, flicking them off, and,
there's really no reason to do that,
no, of course,
as far as I can tell.
Especially if you win. I could see if you lose and you get upset and get emotional, maybe. If you win and you're a dick, what's going to happen? Well, when you lose, everyone is going to hate you. That's what's going to happen.
Is that what happened?
That's exactly what happened.
So she made her bed, now she's got to sleep in it, kind of thing?
Exactly. And it's like, hopefully you invested all the money that you made wisely, because nobody wants to see you anymore, and if they do, it's just so they can watch you get your ass beat for the third time in a row.
I don't know exactly where that comes from, but that kind of, very intense negativity.
Yeah.
It really isn't constructive in any kind of a historical sense, in like a tribal unit or anything like that. I mean, I understand these are intense people who are getting, if you have the capacity to go inside a ring or an octagon and fight for a living, yeah, you're probably a pretty intense person, but you have to know where that begins and ends. If you live your whole life like you live in an octagon, nobody is going to want to associate with you in any way.
No, you're going to have some trouble.
And I would go as far as to say you're going to have a really hard time being successful in any endeavor that you choose.
That's true.
I was talking with a really talented and high-level programmer, and they're like, there's tons of great programmers in the world, but nobody wants to work with a dick.
Hey, that makes all the sense in the world.
It's like, you can be an absolute genius, but nobody is going to want to have anything to do with you if you can't, engage in some soft skills, so to speak.
You could say that about any field or, anything, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I just have to refer to programming since that's what I do for a living instead of getting in an octagon, but...
Well, sure. How do you think you would do in an octagon? So
I suppose it would depend on who the other person in there was.
Okay, so you go in there against someone with the same weight, because, they try and match that up as much as they can. You go against someone with the same weight, who has the same level of skill, roughly, as you, and who also has 0 fights.
Oh, in that case?
Not someone that's trained all their life or anything like that. 2 0-0 guys who have never trained in the martial arts get in an octagon. How do you think you would do?
Well, I think I would probably get injured, but I think the other guy probably would get injured too, and that's really the reality of 2 grown men fighting, is both of you are probably going to get hurt.
I'd say that's a good bet.
You've got a lot of energy and a lot of, it's not hard to get your, break a hand or something like that. I don't know how those gloves function exactly. Are those padded gloves?
They're padded, but they're pretty thin, so I don't think they protect either the fighter or the person getting hit very much.
Well, that's why they always say don't hit with a closed fist in a street fight, because the chances of you breaking a knuckle or your hand or your wrist are very high.
Broken hands are pervasive in MMA and in boxing. They have big-ass gloves.
Well, and the other thing is people who study that kind of thing train their hands are built up, like it's just like I would imagine anything else. I mean, you develop some level of resistance if you hit heavy objects all day. Your hands are probably going to get stronger and kind of reinforced. For somebody that doesn't do that, and you just go in and throw a haymaker, yeah, you might connect, and it may work out, but
you might knock somebody out, but your hand is going to shatter like glass.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually there's two great writers that this transpired down in Florida in Key West. It was Ernest Hemingway and Wallace Stevens.
They got in a fight?
Yes. Yes, they did.
God,
so
Hemingway was such a badass.
Wallace Stevens was, I think, out drinking, and he was talking in a group of people, and Wallace Stevens is one of the finest poets of the 20th century. A lot of people would consider Ernest Hemingway to be one of the finest novelists of the 20th century. Mm-hmm. And Ernest Hemingway was pretty much a madman by anyone's accounts.
He was crazy.
Wallace Stevens was like I think he was a boxer, like a pretty high-level boxer over at Harvard, I believe it was.
Oh, really?
And a man of pretty large dimensions, as was Ernest Hemingway. So Stevens was out drinking and tying a few on, and apparently, some of Hemingway's friends were there, because Key West was kind of his hometown for a while.
Right.
And he said, hey, this guy's talking bad about you and stuff, and Hemingway shows up there, and he's like, we're not even going to talk about this. Put your dukes up. So they went out into the street and fought, and these two literary geniuses going at it. And apparently, exactly what happened, what I said earlier happened is if two men engage in a fist fight, the chances of them both getting hurt are pretty likely.
Yeah.
And Ernest Hemingway apparently knocked Wallace Stevens out, but broke his hand on Stevens' jaw. So,
oh, jeez, that's amazing.
They both basically just ended up injured, and I think they actually went on to be friends after that,
or at least surprise me.
But that goes back to the having some respect,
sure.
Which is that's how the men of old did it.
Yeah, sometimes it's got to be gained.
Yeah, so they worked it out.
I'm quite certain that if I ever stepped into an octagon or a ring against someone who is 0-0 and no training like myself, I'm pretty sure I'd get knocked out. Not because I would just be weak or something, but like somebody would hit me, even if it was like a light jab, and I would get really pissed off about it, and I'd be like, God, I'm gonna kill you, and I'd forget every common sense thought that I ever had and just rush in like a madman trying to kill this guy.
I gotta say, it doesn't seem like a great strategy.
No, he would just, hit me with something simple and knock me out.
Even if you have even basic conditioning and you go to the gym and take care of yourself, your heart's gonna be pumping so fast, you're gonna be winded really early on.
Oh, no doubt about it.
It's not anything like watching a professional do it.
Well, speaking of, to go off here a little bit, we're always trying to improve ourselves, and that's kind of a theme of this podcast, if you will.
Is this the I'm starting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu talk or the name change talk? No.
No, neither. I wish I could start jiu-jitsu. That would be cool. I would like to do that someday.
Who's stopping you?
Well, there's not a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms anywhere near Fenton, Missouri, so...
I am absolutely certain that there is. No.
I've looked into it, actually, and there's one or two, like downtown, like, I don't know, it's not, it wouldn't be close and it wouldn't be convenient, that's for sure. And I think it would be a fairly expensive thing to do.
Yeah.
So, like, I thought, I had the idea, I'm going to go, run. So I went up to the track up at the middle school here, and it was about 100 degrees yesterday, literally. And
all these things sound like a terrible idea.
So I decided I'm going to, since I haven't run since, I don't remember the last time I ran years ago, I thought I'm going to run hard on the straightaways and walk fast on the curves.
And to give out some personal training advice to everyone out there listening, the best thing to do is go out on the hottest day of the year, having not run in years, and then make sure you sprint. Just don't even warm up. Just sprint as fast as you can. Just go for it. Just because you're in your late 20s, early 30s, 40s, whatever it may be, just reconnect with your 18-year-old self.
Just instantly.
Yeah, instantly. You'll be fine.
So I started doing this, and like by the end of the first lap, I was like, dude, I was dying. It was terrible, and I pushed it, and I did this alternating run walk. I did it for 6 laps. I was pretty proud of myself. So that's like that's 1.5 miles.
Yeah.
I didn't run the whole thing straight, but like I said, I was walking pretty fast in the curves and running the straights. And dude, when I got back, after I walked home from the track and I finished my death wheezing and death rattling, I felt great.
Yeah, I think you might have entered into some kind of, what do you call it, like alternate reality.
So my brain was just affected by the heat and whatnot, and I didn't really feel great.
That's what I'm proposing, yeah.
Remember that that backpack story that you told me when you were going on a walk when you were doing you had like a sandbag in your backpack or something?
Yeah, I still do that.
And the cops stopped you. Do you remember this?
Yeah, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was walking down the middle of the street in this subdivision, and I was walking, and
was I right? Like, you had a sandbag in the backpack?
Yeah.
How heavy was this thing?
It was 50 pounds.
Yeah.
50-pound sandbag, and I was just kind of walking, because walking is something I enjoy, but adding a little bit of weight to it makes it a little bit more challenging, and
sure. A little resistance.
Yeah, but at the same time, I can still walk quite comfortably.
Mm.
And just a slow, natural pace, so it's kind of a building of two worlds, I guess.
Sure.
But yeah, there's no traffic around, so I was just walking down the middle of the road in this subdivision, because there's no sidewalks or anything, and there was like a cop, and he saw me and probably wondered what the hell I was doing.
I feel like, to add to this, I could be, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like it was cold and you were possibly shirtless.
Oh, that wasn't that time. That was a different time.
Oh, that was a different time. Okay.
But, they came to know me pretty well. I was out a lot.
Yeah.
But, I was walking down the street, and this police officer, nice guy.
Sure.
Just doing his job, but making sure things are on the up and up. But it's like, hey, can I help you with something? I'm like, no. Just stop for an evening stroll. I can't sleep.
Yeah.
All right. We went our separate ways. Yeah, it was fine. No problem. But yeah, one night I used to run in the evenings for a short stint, kind of off and on, but my day was pretty packed. I'd get on this train at around 7:30, and I wouldn't get home till about 10. Typically 10:30 sometimes. And I would come home, I'd drop my bag, instantly change into my running shoes and clothes, and then go out for this 2-mile run. Just a simple out and back on a modest hill. But yeah, I think it was snowing one time, and I was bare chested and just had some shorts on, and the cops stopped me. They're like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm having the time of my life out here. I'm just, going for a run.
They just thought you were under some kind of distress or something.
I think they probably thought I was high on like meth or something,
Just
but then once
on
they
meth
converse
running
with
around.
me a little bit, and they're like, okay, this guy's clearly, on this planet and
Yeah.
coherent. He's just, choosing to do a strange activity at present. And,
Yeah, sure.
after I had some dialogue with them and they just kind of knew I didn't have anything to hide,
Sure.
And, from that point on, we just kind of wave. But, they saw me out there every once in a while.
I can imagine the first run-in seeming a little suspicious to a police officer.
Hey, I get it. It's a pretty affluent neighborhood. They don't tolerate a whole lot of nonsense in that particular area.
Yeah.
I've experimented in the past with rather odd schedules. And I mean, despite their boldness, I don't think they really worked.
Sure.
I mean, I had one, I remember, many years ago. I didn't start playing when I was studying guitar quite a bit. I didn't start till midnight.
Mm.
And every night from midnight to 4, I would practice.
Yeah, I remember this.
That was a must.
Mm.
And then I was in school at the time. I had a logic course at 8:30 in the morning. And I'm proud to say I never made it to that class. It's my first semester of college, and I made it to the final, and the professor was shocked to still see me there. He's like, I thought you dropped this course.
Who are you?
But I can't say I regretted anything. I mean,
Sure.
Maybe I regret paying for that course. But
Well, I know something about that myself, but
I learned the lesson it actually taught me was much more valuable, so it was worth every penny.
Well, sure. I guess the real question is, who would win in a fist fight? Bruce Dickinson or
Where did this come from also?
Bruce Dickinson or James Hetfield?
I don't know. From what I understand, I think Hetfield's dimensions are quite a bit larger.
That's definitely true as far as I know. And Bruce Dickinson is older.
Well, I think that pretty much, I can't say.
I don't think it's said, like, I would put my money on Dickinson. I
don't know if I'd want to even see that go down.
I feel like Dickinson would be a scrapper, man. I think he would be a savage.
Well, based on his onstage behavior, despite him being about 60 years old, he's in far better shape than I am.
Yeah, I can agree with that as well, when it comes to me.
Standing for 2.5 hours, 3 hours on stage going crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd make it about 20 minutes. No.
To that effect, though, someone's got to die. Iron Maiden or Metallica.
Oh, I would definitely have to say Metallica is gone.
Metallica has to die.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, not physically. I'm not promoting that because they're all still alive.
Well, no, that's not what this game is about. We've explained this game before.
Certainly. But yeah, part of the someone has to die, at least with classical composers, is the ironic thing is they're all dead.
They're already dead. Yeah, no. We're talking more about wiping them, from existence.
Musically speaking.
Yes. Wiping their legacy so that we no longer have anything from one of these bands.
I want to make this very clear in case Metallica's lawyers are listening.
Lars is listening to this getting really pissed off right now.
I don't want this kind of problems. No, I love that band. No.
He's getting really pissed off at us for talking about their death. This podcast is over. That's how we should end every podcast, or not?
It's so definitive. It just brands it right in there.
Just smash. That's the end of it.
Onward and upward.
Hey, sounds good, man.
Take care.
Peace.